In the far western edge of Ukraine, hidden between rolling sunflower fields and long stretches of wheat that danced with every passing breeze, lay a village so small and quiet that even Google Maps occasionally forgot it existed. The villagers called it Mnohrad. Outsiders called it the place with the chickens that outran cars. And yet, for all its simple charm, one strange rumor followed Mnohrad everywhere. A rumor so odd that anyone who heard it would either laugh, squint, or assume someone drank too much homemade vodka. The people in this village could speak Tagalog, not just a couple of words picked up from the internet, not just a random kumusta ka, but full-flowing, naturally spoken Tagalog, with the warm tone of Manila, the friendly lilt of Batangas, and sometimes even the slang of Quezon City. And no one, not even the villagers themselves, knew when or how it started. Some said it was a miracle. Others said it was witchcraft. A few old men insisted a group of Filipinos got stranded here in the 1980s and taught everyone while waiting for rescue. But according to most people in Mnohrad, this strange talent had simply been around forever, like the ancient well in the center of town, or the stubborn goat that refused to leave the mayor's porch. To the villagers, speaking Tagalog wasn't abnormal. It was merely life. The story begins with a woman named Olena, a baker known for her sunflower-shaped bread, and her habit of humming Filipino love songs while kneading dough. Every morning, she greeted the sleepy villagers with warm pastries and phrases like, Magandang umaga, ingat ka, and occasionally, Ay nako, bakit ang lamig ngayon? As if she had lived her entire life in Manila traffic. To outsiders, the confusion was instant. To locals, it was routine. On a cold spring morning, when fog still hugged the ground and roosters complained about being awake too early, a new tourist arrived, the first one in nearly 7 months. He came from Kiev, carrying a giant backpack, 2 cameras, and an excited energy that immediately made him suspicious. His name was Artem, a freelance videographer who wandered across Ukraine making documentaries about quirky places. He had heard the rumor online by accident, a late-night comment thread where someone jokingly wrote, "There is a village in Ukraine where people speak better Tagalog than I do." Artem laughed at first. Then he found another comment saying the same thing. Then a short video clip of old Ukrainian grandmas saying, "Anak, halika kain na," while serving cabbage rolls. That made him book a train ticket instantly. He didn't believe it, of course. Not for a second. He thought it was all a prank, or maybe a parody video cleverly edited. But when he arrived, camera ready, notebook prepared for debunking the myth, he walked straight into the tiny local cafe, ordered tea, and prepared to interview the staff. Olena turned from behind the counter, flour on her cheeks, apron crooked. "Oh, kumusta? Naghahanap ka ba ng upuan? Doon may space." Artem dropped his camera. She didn't blink. She didn't smirk. She didn't say it like a foreigner trying too hard. It was the effortless tone of a tita inviting someone to sit before scolding them for not wearing slippers. The entire cafe turned to look at him. Everyone waited. The moment stretched like melted cheese on hot pandesal. Artem slowly sat down and whispered, "Is this real?" From the corner table, an old man sipping tea answered calmly, "Oo naman. Bakit? Gusto mo ng pagkain?" Artem froze. His eyebrows climbed his forehead. His soul momentarily left his body. The villagers continued chatting, switching to Ukrainian occasionally, then back to Tagalog as naturally as breathing. No one performed for the camera. No one exaggerated. They simply lived. It made no sense. Artem scrambled to turn on his camera, but in his flustered panic, he accidentally recorded 10 minutes of the ceiling and only 3 seconds of actual footage. Trying to regain his composure, he approached the old man. "Sir, how do you know Tagalog? Did you live in the Philippines?" The old man blinked twice. "Hindi, dito lang ako lumaki." "But who taught you?" "Ewan, marunong na talaga kami simula bata pa kami." This village was impossible. Artem spent hours interviewing the locals, only to be bombarded with more impossibility. According to one elderly woman who knitted scarves beside the well, she grew up hearing Tagalog from her grandmother. According to another villager who repaired bicycles for a living, his mother told him Tagalog was just another language of the village, like Ukrainian or Russian or Polish. But none of them knew why. Somewhere between confusion and fascination, Artem found himself laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was too unbelievable. He videotaped children playing tag and yelling, "Taya ka, hindi ka makahabol." He recorded farmers discussing weather in perfect conversational Tagalog while carrying sacks of potatoes. He even captured the mayor delivering a short speech about corn distribution, half in Ukrainian, half in Tagalog, and entirely serious. By lunchtime, Artem simply accepted his fate. This place was magic. He followed the smell of frying onions and garlic to a small home near the fields where an elderly grandmother named Baba Nadia lived. She was famous for cooking dishes inspired by both Ukrainian and Filipino flavors. Borscht with a hint of calamansi, pancit with Ukrainian sausage, and her most legendary creation, adobo pierogi. When Artem entered her home, he smelled something familiar. Soy sauce, vinegar, garlic. The scent felt like being hugged by a Filipino tita he never had. "Upo ka, hijo," she said, waving a wooden spoon. "Matagal ka pa ba? Gutom na yan mukha mo." "Hijo? Gutom? Ano? Why? How?" He couldn't form words. She placed a bowl of steaming potatoes mixed with adobo seasoning in front of him. "Kain." Artem took one bite and almost cried. It was good. Too good. Unreasonably good. But what shocked him wasn't the flavor. It was how naturally she fussed over him like a Filipino grandmother. He swallowed and asked gently, "Baba, how did you learn to speak like this?" She shrugged. "Hindi ko alam, basta alam namin." "But doesn't it feel strange?" "Hindi. Mas strange kung hindi namin alam." There was no explanation, no origin story, no logic. And the strangest part was how little they cared about it. To them, Tagalog was as normal as breathing air. Just as Artem was about to pack up his camera, planning to call this the most confusing village in Europe, he noticed something. A mural painted on the side of an abandoned barn. It showed Ukrainian farmers standing on a field with Filipino fishermen. The colors were faded, the style old, the outlines cracked from weather. But in the corner, barely readable, were 4 Tagalog words. "Dito nagsimula ang lahat." This is where it all began. Artem felt a chill run down his spine. Suddenly, the village didn't feel like a quirky internet rumor. It felt like a place with secrets, a place with history, a place with a story buried deeper than its sunflower fields. He aimed his camera at the mural and stepped closer to touch the cracked paint. Behind him, a soft voice spoke. "You want to know the truth?" Artem spun around. A young Ukrainian woman stood there, blonde hair, blue eyes, scarf wrapped tightly around her neck. She looked different from the others, younger, sharper, more aware. While the villagers embraced their Tagalog-speaking nature like breathing, she watched Artem like someone who had been waiting for this moment. She stepped closer. "I'm Yana," she said, "and I can tell you why this village speaks Tagalog." Artem froze, camera in hand. "Finally," he whispered. "Someone who knows." But Yana didn't smile. Instead, she looked past him toward the mural, as if remembering something painful, something heavy. "It didn't start as a joke," she said quietly. "It started with something we lost." Artem's heartbeat quickened. "Can you tell me?" Yana nodded. "But not here," she said. "Walk with me." Artem followed her down a narrow dirt road leading deeper into the village, where sunflower fields stretched endlessly under the pale spring sky. The wind carried a faint mix of cold air and warm soil. Birds circled overhead, and the ground crunched softly beneath their footsteps. Yana walked with purpose, her steps steady. Artem felt like he was not just following a person, but a story trying to reveal itself. They reached an old wooden house, the kind that looked like it had witnessed war, famine, love, and everything in between. The front door creaked with age as Yana pushed it open. Inside, the air smelled like dust, memories, and something else. Calamansi. There were photographs on the wall, old photographs, Ukrainians standing beside Filipinos wearing traditional clothing, smiling, laughing, holding hands like family. Artem slowly examined them. "Wait, are these real?" "Yes," Yana said. Our village didn't just learn Tagalog. We lived it. Artem turned to face her. What does that mean? Yana took a deep breath. It means, she said, her voice trembling slightly, that once upon a time, this village wasn't just Ukrainian. Artem leaned in, breath held. And then? He asked. She looked him in the eyes, her voice shifting, soft, emotional, almost nostalgic. And then, she whispered, the Filipinos disappeared. Artem felt his entire body tense. What do you mean disappeared? Yana looked away, as if unsure whether she should reveal the truth. But then she continued. One day, she said softly, they were gone. All of them. No goodbye. No trace. Nothing. Artem felt a chill. Yana, what happened to them? But Yana didn't answer immediately. She walked toward an old cabinet and opened a drawer full of letters, handwritten, faded, written in Tagalog. Artem reached for one, fingers trembling slightly. Are these from the Filipinos who lived here? Yana nodded. They lived here for decades, loved here, worked here, built families here, and then one morning, they were all gone. How many? Artem whispered. Yana looked at him with eyes that held memories she never lived but carried anyway. Hundreds. Artem stepped back, stunned. But why did the village keep speaking Tagalog? Yana finally met his eyes. Because we never forgot them, she said, and we never stopped waiting. A cold silence drifted through the old wooden walls. So, Artem said slowly, your entire village speaks Tagalog because, Yana finished for him, we speak the language of the people we lost. Artem felt a heaviness settle inside him. The mystery that seemed funny and quirky now felt sacred, emotional, deeper than he imagined. This wasn't a joke. This was history. This was pain. This was love. He opened his camera slowly. Yana, he whispered, can I record your story? She looked at the photographs again, the smiling faces, the Filipino families who had lived in this forgotten Ukrainian village. Then she nodded. You can, she said softly. But you must promise one thing. What? Tell it right, she said. Tell it with heart. Artem pressed record, and Yana began. The sun rose slowly over the Ukrainian village of Verbinka, painting the sky with soft gold, and for the first time, the villagers woke up with a sense of anticipation that felt almost electric. They didn't know exactly why. Maybe it was the leftover excitement from the Filipino visitors. Maybe it was the Tagalog lessons the children were now starting to teach their parents. Maybe it was the strange but beautiful feeling of having a new identity, Ukrainian by blood, but somehow a little bit Filipino by heart. Whatever it was, the village buzzed with life. Roosters crowed, dogs barked. Neighbors greeted each other like they always did. But now, instead of Dobroho ranku, people actually tried saying, Magandang umaga, and awkwardly laughed at each other's accents. Magandang, umaga? Muttered old Petro as he swept the front of his house. From across the road, his wife scolded him. Hindi ganyan! Magandang umaga! He grinned and shrugged. Malapit na. The whole street heard them and laughed. Even the kids walking to school tried practicing their Tagalog greetings, shouting, Kumusta! To anyone within earshot, even if they had been together 5 minutes ago. By now, the entire village had accepted one undeniable truth. Tagalog wasn't just a language to them anymore. It was a bridge, a symbol, a new layer of their identity. And ever since their unexpected connection with Filipinos, the village had begun transforming in ways no one could have imagined. That morning, the community hall was packed. Every seat was taken. People stood along the walls. Some sat on the floor. The mayor had called for an emergency meeting, but not the stressful kind. This was the exciting kind, the type that made everyone whisper and speculate on the way in. At the front stood the mayor with a large piece of paper in his hands. He cleared his throat 4 times, which was a lot, even for him, before speaking. Mga kaibigan, he began. The entire room gasped dramatically. The mayor raised his eyebrows, surprised even at himself. "Oh, tama ba Tagalog ko?" he asked. The room erupted, clapping and cheering like he had just finished a concert. He waved his hands, embarrassed. Okay, enough clapping. Hindi ako singer." But of course, they clapped louder. He finally continued. "We have a problem, but also an opportunity, a big one." Everyone leaned in. Ever since the Filipinos visited us, our village has been trending online. People from Kyiv, Lviv, Odessa, everyone wants to know why a Ukrainian village knows how to speak Tagalog. He held up his phone. A video played. It was a clip of the children singing Bahay Kubo in perfect, cheerful Tagalog. 20 million views, the mayor said proudly. 20 million. The hall exploded with noise. Old ladies screamed. Children cheered. Someone fainted dramatically for attention. And that's not all, the mayor continued. We have received invitations, tourist agencies, cultural programs, TV studios. They all want to feature Verbinka. Petro raised his hand. "Mayor, ibig sabihin ba niyan sisikat tayo?" "Yes, Petro," the mayor replied. "Sikat na tayo." The room roared again. "But more importantly," the mayor added, lifting the paper again, "we have received an official invitation from the Philippine Embassy in Kiev. They want to collaborate with us. They want to help turn Verbinka into a Ukrainian-Filipino cultural village." A silence fell. A stunned silence. The kind where everyone was afraid to breathe. Then, like a volcano erupting, the crowd exploded. Hands raised, cheers echoing off the walls, children jumping, parents hugging, grandmothers crying tears of joy. This was no longer just a village trying to learn Tagalog for fun. This was history. By noon, volunteers lined up to join the planning committees. They divided into groups based on skills: cooking, dancing, language teaching, hospitality, tourism, events. It didn't matter what age or background they had. Everyone wanted to help. The cooking team immediately gathered in the largest village kitchen to figure out Filipino dishes they could cook using Ukrainian ingredients. One woman proposed borsh with patis. Another suggested adobo but cooked in sunflower oil and maybe add dill. A teenager shouted, "Let's make Ukrainian halo with cottage cheese, berries, and sweetened condensed milk." Everyone approved passionately because Ukrainians already loved condensed milk. But the greatest challenge was language. The Tagalog teachers, who were literally just the village teens who had memorized TikTok videos and practiced with their Filipino visitors, began designing their own lessons. They weren't perfect, but they were enthusiastic. One boy wrote on the chalkboard, Lesson 1, Nayol, meaning sana all, use when jealous but not angry. Below it was another, Lesson 2, charot, meaning joke only po. Then, Lesson 3, naku, meaning expression of 99 emotions, use whenever. A grandmother squinted at the board. So this word, charot, pang joke. Yes, Lola, the boy answered. She nodded solemnly, then whispered to her friend, charot tayo palagi ngayon. Another huge development arrived that same afternoon. The Philippine Embassy sent a delegation to visit Verbinka in person. A convoy of cars arrived, carrying Filipino diplomats, staff, and cultural representatives. The villagers rushed to the main square, greeting them with a mix of Ukrainian warmth and Tagalog enthusiasm. One Filipino diplomat stepped out of the car and was greeted by a 6-year-old girl who proudly said, "Kumusta po? Ako si Dasha. Ang ganda mo po." The diplomat melted instantly. My goodness! Did she say that in Tagalog? The mayor, beaming with pride, said, "Yes, Po. Verbinka loves Tagalog." The diplomats were stunned, but delighted. The villagers prepared a small cultural showcase. The children performed tinikling, which they had learned using broomsticks instead of bamboo. The adults sang a Tagalog folk song, off-key, but passionately. And the grandmothers cooked a bizarre but surprisingly delicious adobo borsh hybrid dish. The Filipinos tasted it, hesitated, then widened their eyes in shock. This is actually good? Like, weird good, but good. During the meeting, the embassy shared their proposal. "We want Verbinka to become the first Filipino cultural sister village in Europe," one diplomat announced. "We want to bring Filipino teachers here, send Ukrainian villagers to the Philippines, and build an annual cultural festival." The crowd gasped again. A cultural exchange program? This was beyond anything they had imagined. The villagers accepted instantly, without hesitation. The planners spent the next weeks preparing for the huge transformation. The first Filipino delegation arrived: cooks, teachers, artists, even a few tourism officers. The villagers welcomed them like long-lost cousins. The Filipinos brought ingredients Verbinka had never seen before: banana ketchup, calamansi juice, salted eggs, dried fish, bagoong, and huge buckets of uba halaya. The Ukrainian villagers were curious about everything. "What is this purple thing?" "Uba." "Is it safe?" "Yes." "Is it tasty?" "Very." 2 minutes later, the entire village was addicted to ube. Children ran around with purple mouths. Teenagers dipped bread into ube jam like Nutella. The mayor walked around holding an ube pandesal like a sacred relic. Tagalog classes flourished even more. With real Filipino teachers, the villagers quickly improved. Instead of "Kamusta na ikaw doon?" they now said "Kamusta ka na?" with decent pronunciation. Instead of "Ako, gusto ko kumakain," they learned "Gusto kong kumain." And instead of shouting "Ay nako" like a Viking battle cry, they finally understood the soft, humorous Filipino tone. The Filipinos, in return, learned Ukrainian words, though most struggled adorably with the pronunciation. You could hear a Filipino teacher practicing private, privet, prevet, basta, hello. The villagers laughed lovingly, proud that the exchange was two-way. Soon, Verbinka had Filipino food stalls, karaoke nights, ukulele classes, Tagalog storytelling sessions, and even a small sari-sari store run by a teenage entrepreneur selling imported snacks. Word spread fast. Visitors came from other towns, then from other regions, then TV crews, then vloggers, then travel magazines. Everyone wanted to see the Ukrainian village that spoke Tagalog. But the biggest milestone arrived 3 months into the cultural exchange. The village hosted the first Ukrainian-Filipino Friendship Festival, an event that drew thousands of visitors from across the country. The streets filled with decorations, Ukrainian embroidery mixed with colorful Filipino banderitas. Stalls sold halo next to vareniki. Performers danced both tinikling and hopak. Children wore traditional Ukrainian flower crowns with tiny Philippine flags sticking out of them. When the festival began, a group of Ukrainian children took the stage and proudly sang a full Tagalog medley. Liran Sinta, anak, kailangan kita. Parents cried. Filipinos cried. Ukrainians who didn't understand a single word still cried because the emotion was impossible to ignore. It wasn't just a festival, it was a miracle. The most touching moment came when an elderly Ukrainian man stood at the microphone. He had lived in Verbinka all his life, survived wars, rebuilt homes, and watched generations grow. And now, he stood in front of thousands, speaking slowly but proudly. "Maraming salamat po," he said in accented but heartfelt Tagalog. "Dahil sa inyo, ang aming maliit na baryo naging masaya ulit." People wept. Even the Filipinos who were supposed to record the speech forgot to film because they were wiping their tears. The festival ended with fireworks, blue and yellow for Ukraine, red and blue for the Philippines. People hugged, they sang together, they shared food and stories. And for one long, beautiful night, culture didn't divide people. It made them family. Months passed, and Verbinka officially became a cultural landmark. Schools introduced weekly Tagalog classes. Restaurants fused Filipino and Ukrainian flavors. Tourism increased. Media coverage exploded. But deep down, none of that mattered as much as the feeling the villagers now carried within themselves. They had discovered a second home, without leaving their village. The final scene of this story unfolded during winter. Snow covered Verbinka like a peaceful white blanket. Children played outside in thick coats. Smoke rose from chimneys. And in a small house at the edge of the village, an old woman sat rocking in her chair, knitting a Ukrainian-Filipino scarf with blue, yellow, red, and white threads. Her granddaughter approached her. Babushka, why do you like Tagalog so much? The little girl asked. The grandmother smiled gently. Because, anak, she answered softly. It reminds me that love has many languages. The little girl leaned on her. Will Verbinka always speak Tagalog? The grandmother nodded. Yes, she said, touching the child's forehead. Hanggat may puso tayo. And just like that, in a tiny Ukrainian village where winter was long and life was simple, the warmth of Filipino language and culture lived on, shining brightly, melting snowflakes, crossing borders and proving that sometimes the world becomes smaller, not through technology or travel, but through kindness and shared laughter. Verbinka was no longer just a village. It was a home for two cultures woven together, forever.